Welcome to How to Watch League of Legends. If you clicked on this video and you don't really care how the game works, and you simply just want to be able to look at the screen and tell who's winning, skip to the section labeled Top Scoreboard on the timeline to understand the scoreboards. If you are interested in learning about the basics of the game, well then strap in because we've got a lot to cover. League of Legends is a 5v5 MOBA game. MOBA is a multiplayer online battle arena. It involves a combination of teamwork, strategy, and mechanical skill. Mechanical skill is how good you are at piloting your individual character in the game. It's one of the most popular online video games in the world with over 115 million active users. League of Legends has a large competitive scene that includes professionals, amateurs, and even players on college scholarships. The goal of the game is to destroy the other team's base before your own falls. How you manage to infiltrate their base can vary from game to game, but it always ends with someone's nexus or base exploding. Before the game starts, teams are either assigned blue or red side of the map. Blue team has their base in the bottom left of the map, and red team has their base in the top right. Each player controls a unique character in the game called champions. Before jumping into the game, the teams do a draft to select what champions each team wants to play. Both teams take turn banning 3 champions that neither team is able to pick for the rest of the game. After the bans, it's similar to a snake draft. Blue team gets the first pick, red takes the next 2, blue takes 2, red takes 1 more, and then a second round of banning takes place. Both teams ban 2 more champions for a total of 5 bans each. Then, the last couple champions are chosen. Red takes their 4th, blue takes their 4th and 5th, and finally, red gets the last pick. There are currently a total of 156 champions, with a couple more being added each year, so don't worry about having to learn all of their abilities or even all the champions. You'll pick up on the most important ones after watching a bit. There's a lot of strategy in what order the champions are chosen, and what champions work well together or against the other team's champions. It can take years of playing or watching to understand, but I mostly just hope they choose the, cool ones. The map or battleground in League of Legends is called Summoner's Rift. It is comprised of multiple lanes and a jungle. Each of the 5 players on both teams have unique roles to play in the game. Similar to how a basketball team might have a point guard and a center, a League of Legends team has a mid laner and a support. The 5 roles in order from top to bottom of the map are top, jungle, mid, ADC or attack damage carry, and support. There are some variations in what each player is supposed to do from game to game, but here is a general description. Top laners tend to play champions that are very difficult to kill due to having a lot of defensive attributes. This specific type of character is often referred to as a tank due to their durability. Top laners are somewhat isolated from the rest of the map, sometimes called the top lane island. So their main responsibility in the early game is to beat the other top laner in a head-to-head. Junglers tend to have the largest variety in what they can choose to provide for the team. Currently, popular champions in the jungle are ones that are able to do a lot of damage very quickly, which is often referred to as burst damage. Junglers have a lot of responsibilities, from defeating monsters in the jungle to ganking lanes. Ganks are when a champion pops out from outside of the enemy's vision to surprise them. Mid laners are primarily mages and assassins. Due to mid being in the center of the map, it's a very pivotal lane to controlling the rest of the map. Attack damage carries, ADC, AD, and bot laner all refer to the same position. ADCs only have 2 jobs: deal as much damage as possible and stay alive. Bot lane is unique in that there are 2 players from both teams in this lane. The second player is referred to as the support. Much like the jungle, supports can have varying roles depending on what each team chooses to specialize in. The 3 most important parts of being support are keeping your ADC alive, moving around the map with the jungler, and establishing vision for your team, which is a concept that I'll cover in a bit. In League of Legends, there are 2 types of ways to damage an opposing champion. They are referred to as auto or basic attacks, and abilities or spells. The majority of champions have 4 abilities unique to that champion, as well as 2 abilities that are given to every champion. Some champions, like the majority of ADCs, tend to focus on basic attacks, which are simply done by clicking on the opponent if you are in range, while a lot of mid laners are mages that focus on their abilities that you usually have to aim. You might hear casters referring to AD and AP. These are shorthand for attack damage, which increases basic attacks, and ability power, which improves most champions' abilities. Most champions have 4 abilities. 3 base abilities, and one called their ultimate ability, which is also shortened to ult and sometimes called R because that's the button you press to use it. Each player starts every game at level 1, and the maximum level any one player can get to is level 18. You acquire experience to level in a variety of ways, but most of them involve killing the enemy or minions. Starting from level 1, you can choose one of your abilities. Every time you level up from there, you can choose to get another one of your base abilities or improve the one you already have. Once a champion is level 6, they are able to unlock their ultimate ability, which usually has a huge impact on the game if used correctly. All spells have some sort of cooldown, which is a time period you have to wait before using it again. The length of the cooldown depends on how much impact it has. Ultimates tend to have a much longer cooldown due to this. Along with the 4 abilities that every champion gets, there are also 2 additional abilities that are given to players. These are called summoner spells, and every game, players choose 2 from a list of 9. Each of the spells has a tremendously long cooldown because they're extremely impactful. The list of summoner spells is as follows: Heal, Ghost, Barrier, Exhaust, Flash, Teleport, Smite, Cleanse, and Ignite. While they're all important, as a spectator, the most important ones to take note of are Smite and Flash. Almost every character takes Flash as one of their 2 summoner spells. It's on a very long 5-minute cooldown after use, but it allows the user to jump a short distance over any obstacle and with no delay. Smite is a spell exclusive and necessary for junglers. It is on a much shorter cooldown than the rest of the summoner spells, and allows junglers to deal a large burst of damage to monsters in the jungle. This is important because objectives like Baron and Dragon, which will be covered later, are highly contested by both teams, and might result in what is called a smite fight, in which both junglers try and time using their smite to deal the last bit of damage to the monster. While managing to kill the other team is important and helpful, objectives are what generally win the game. The map is always the same, with each team having 11 turrets, 3 inhibitors called inhibs for short, and 1 nexus that you must protect at all costs. Turrets are large structures that automatically attack enemies that get near. They have a lot of health, and if a team destroys an enemy tower, it gives them a large chunk of gold. Inhibitors are behind the 3rd set of towers. When destroyed, the opposing team will start spawning super minions. Sorry, wrong photo. Super minions for 5 minutes, which do much more damage and are much harder to kill than normal minions. If all 3 inhibitors are destroyed at the same time, the number of super minions being spawned doubles. The nexus is the team's final structure in the base. When the nexus is destroyed, that's when the game is over. Dragon and Baron also fall under the objectives category, but I will cover those when we get to the jungle. Every champion has a health bar, and most have a mana or resource bar. The health bar shows how much damage they can take before dying, and the mana or resource bar is depleted as the champion uses one of its 4 spells. Every time a player dies, that doesn't mean they're done for the game. They're essentially put in a timeout where they're able to see what is happening, but not interact with the game. The length of the timeout is determined by what level the champion that died was, with lower level champions only being out of the game for a few seconds, and higher level champions being out of the game for up to a minute plus. You can kind of think of it as a penalty box, similar to hockey. In each lane, there are groups of computer-controlled characters called minions or creep waves. These minions are a large part of how champions acquire gold and experience during the game. Anyone near an enemy minion that dies will receive a varying amount of experience, but only the character who deals the killing blow will receive gold. This is sometimes called the last hitting. As well as the player's kills, you might want to pay attention to a player's CS or creep score to see how much better or worse they're doing at collecting gold. So what's the point of gold? Throughout the game, players will acquire gold which can be spent in their respective fountains, which is a zone in the far corner of each team's base, which allows the user to regenerate their health, mana, and spend money at the shop. Gold buys items which increase this champion's stats. We went over how there are minions in every lane to gather gold and experience, but what do the junglers do? Junglers are tasked with killing specific monsters or camps in their respective halves of the map. Aggressive junglers might attempt to invade and steal away some of the opposing player's monsters. There are the same monsters on both sides of the map, they're just mirrored. Two of the monsters on both sides are referred to as buffs, more specifically red buff and blue buff. The details of what the buffs do aren't super important to a viewer, but just know you don't want to get them stolen away from you. Halfway into the map, in a neutral zone called the river, there are two more monsters that spawn, that the junglers often fight over early on in the game. Killing this little guy gives you lasting vision in the area. This little monster, called the Rift Scuttler, or Scuttle for short, doesn't fight back, and if one team is able to secure both scuttles, it's a pretty significant advantage early on in the game. Along with the scuttle, there are two pits located in the river. The pit on the south side of the map is home to the dragon. There are actually 4 base types of dragon, as well as the elder dragon. Dragons spawn every 6 minutes endlessly throughout the game, and usually take more than just the jungler to take down. The types of dragons are as follows. Mountain, which provides a buff or increase to everyone's defensive stats on the team. Cloud, which provides a decrease to everyone's ultimate ability cooldown. Infernal or Fire Drake, which gives an increase to offensive stats. And Ocean Dragon, which helps champions regenerate their health and mana quicker. After the first 2 dragons are taken, then only one type will spawn for the rest of the game. For example, if the first dragon that is killed is Air Drake, and the second one killed is Mountain Drake, then either Fire or Ocean will spawn for the rest of the game. Depending on which Drake is the one chosen, the map will shift. Cloud Map provides areas that increase players' movement speed. Infernal will cause certain terrain to collapse, creating a much more open map as well as more plants in the jungle that help people cross terrain. Mountain has the opposite effect, with more walls spawning in certain areas. And Ocean will provide more plants in the river that help restore health and mana, as well as more bushes. After either team claims their 4th dragon, they get a huge permanent boost called the Dragon Soul. Cloud Soul gives a large burst of movement speed to champions after casting their ultimate abilities. Ocean Soul provides a large amount of healing during combat with enemy champions. Infernal Soul makes it every so often champions attack, there will be a large burst of damage in the area. And Mountain Soul gives a shield to every player that regenerates after a short time out of combat. After one team secures Dragon Soul, a special type of dragon called the Elder Dragon will spawn for the rest of the game. The Elder Dragon is extremely difficult to beat without multiple team members attacking it, but if you can manage to take it down, it gives you quite the buff for the next 2.5 minutes. Damaging an opponent will cause it to take continual damage over the next couple seconds, and if you deal damage to an enemy champion that would take them below 20% of their health, they're instantly executed. On the northern half of the map is the other pit where legendary monsters spawn. Early in the game, a monster called the Rift Herald will spawn. When a team defeats it, they're able to pick up the Eye of the Herald, which allows them to summon it for themselves. When summoned, the Rift Herald will charge at opposing structures, dealing massive damage. At 20 minutes, the northern pit will no longer house the Rift Herald, but instead spawn Baron Nashor. Baron is incredibly difficult to defeat, and at the 20-minute mark when it first spawns, typically all 5 members of the team are needed to best it. When slain, Baron buff provides that team a 3-minute buff to their minions' attack power and health, which makes it significantly easier to destroy enemy structures and make a push into their base. Because these objectives are so important, you will often see what is called a team fight occur. I like to classify a fight that occurs with 4+ members from both teams as a team fight. They can be extremely pivotal and exciting to watch if you know what to look for. Pay close attention to which team claims the objective they're fighting over, as well as which team comes out on the other side with more members alive to tell who won the fight. You might hear the casters refer to something called CC or crowd control. Simply put, CC is any ability that prevents the opposing team from taking an action, like using an ability or moving. Multi-kills occur when the same champion takes down multiple enemies within a short period of time. They are as follows. A double kill is when you kill 2 enemies in quick succession, triple is 3, quadra is 4, and a pentakill is when one player gets the last hit on all 5 enemy members. This is a pretty rare phenomenon and very exciting when it happens. An ace refers to all 5 enemy team members being dead at the same time, but not necessarily from the same person. Summoner's Rift is covered by this dark mist called the Fog of War. If your team doesn't have a tower, player, minions, or a ward in that area, then the players on your team cannot see what's going on in that area. There are also many bushes scattered throughout the rift. These bushes provide hiding places for both teams. Whenever a champion is in a bush, they are hidden from the other team. There is a way to combat this lack of information. Vision control is one of the main jobs of the support players. They are able to place and destroy things called wards, which give temporary vision in areas that would normally be dark. Some types of wards are invisible to the other team and only last a set amount of time, while others last forever but can be seen and destroyed by the enemies. Those are called control wards. Some less common but important strategy terms you might hear include scaling, which refers to champions that do better as the game progresses, power spike, which is a time in the game when a specific champion is at one of their strongest points, backdoor, which is when one player attempts to destroy the opposing team's base while the rest of their team occupies them, split push, which is similar to backdoor, but the other team doesn't necessarily have to be distracted. The team is just utilizing multiple lanes to try and push their base. ARAM, which is a term for everybody running in the same lane, specifically mid, to try and cause a fight or break down their base. BM stands for bad manners, or when someone's showing off or doing something disrespectful. And GG stands for good game, which is said when the game is over. Now that we've covered the basics of the game, let's go over things to look for as a viewer and how to read the scoreboards. At the top of the screen is the most important information you can have as a viewer. Even if you've missed part of the game, you can simply check these numbers at the top and have a really good idea of who's in control of the game. The top scoreboard from outside in shows how many towers each team has destroyed, how much gold each team has, and the icons just below it will show you how many dragons each team has currently. Whichever team has the larger number in all of these categories is the one that is usually winning. Another way you can check the tempo of the game is by checking to see who has more wards on the map. The minimap is in the bottom right-hand corner of the screen. It shows a zoomed out version of the entire map. Wards are demonstrated by little triangles, and control wards are shown as eyes with a line through them, that are blue and red for each team respectively. Whichever team has more wards down is usually in control of those areas of the map. The large scoreboard at the bottom shows how each player is doing individually. It has the players in their roles from top down to support. Starting from the leftmost numbers, this shows their vision score, which is how well they are placing and destroying wards. The next 6 pictures are item slots, which increase their character's power. The items with a border around them are especially powerful items called mythic items. Each player can only get one of these per game. The next 3 numbers, divided by lines, are the player's kills, deaths, and assists, commonly referred to as their KDA. The last number is their CS, or how many minions they have killed. Each role is judged a bit differently on what number should be high, but in general, everyone wants a high number of kills and CS and a low number of deaths. The exception being a support who generally wants a high number of assists and a high vision score. The scoreboard is flipped for the red team with the first number being CS and the one on the rightmost being vision. The portraits on the sides might look very confusing at first, but most of the information isn't super relevant to the majority of viewers. It displays whether their summoner spells are on cooldown, what runes they decided to use. Runes are selected before the game and aren't super important, so I didn't cover them in this video. What level each character is, their health and mana bars, and finally whether or not their ultimate ability is on cooldown. The most common place to watch League of Legends is on twitch.tv. If you're new to Twitch, you might notice there's a chat. Now this might seem cool at first, but the first thing you're going to want to do is hit that full screen button and get rid of it. Because you're going to find it mostly consists of 2 things. People either spamming the same emotes and copy pastas over and over again, and the other group of people who are making largely uninformed criticisms about the game. That being said, Twitch chat can also lead to some very funny community jokes, as well as any potential games pauses or bugs more entertaining. So there it is, how to watch League of Legends. This video is way longer than I expected to be, but League is an extremely complex game that's constantly evolving, so it's kind of hard to explain in a short amount of time. I actually play support for my university, so if you're interested, you can come support my team and I at UTD Esports on Twitch, as we play in the Collegiate League of Legends events this fall and spring. Hopefully at least someone finds this video useful, and let me know if you have any questions in the comments.